Hey everybody, Dr. Dave here. We're just getting started here. It is 7 on the dot, so we'll give it a few more minutes, see if anybody shows up a little late. If you are here in the viewing, thanks for stopping by. Please go ahead and comment, let us know you're here, let us know where you're tuning in from, so we can figure out who all is joining us this evening. While we're waiting, tonight is just about finding a few healthy recipes that we can all use right now. So without going into too much detail to make sure everybody gets to hear the spiel, it's all about cooking, right? Because our body is needing that fuel, especially in these times right now. So it's like we've got a couple. It's just you, Mom. Hey Cindy, thanks for tuning in. We'll give it a few more minutes, see who else pops in this evening. Hey Cindy. Hey Stacy. Looks like we got another one. Who else joined us here? Hi Cass. Got a couple more coming in. We'll give it a few more minutes here before we get started. Once again, for those who just joined, go ahead and let us know who you are, where you're from, and where you're tuning in from. Glad to have you. Hey Maggie, how are ya? Go ahead and comment, let us know you're here. All right. Well, we got a few here. Thanks everybody for tuning in this evening. Once again, I am Dr. J from Elevate Wellness and Chiropractic, and I'm here tonight to talk to you about the importance of what we are putting into our bodies. For those of you who don't know, I am a chiropractor by trade, but I also have a little bit of extra credentials, a few extra letters after my name, where I've learned the importance of eating, moving, and thinking well. And tonight, we're going to be talking about the eating portion of that. Our body needs proper nutrition. You are what you eat. Abs are made in the kitchen. We've all heard these phrases, but what does it really mean? So that's what we're going to talk about tonight, especially with what's going on right now in the world. We really want to dive into how can we support our body and ultimately our immune system during these challenging times. Food as medicine is not a new concept. If you look back in history at ancient Greece and Rome, all of the native cultures here in the US and in other worldwide countries, you can see that their nutrition directly correlates to how they deal with issues and illness. So when we talk about food being medicine, it truly is just that. And some of all the recipes that I've prepared for you this evening are looking at how can we best support our body's immune system? How can we keep that inflammation down so that we don't succumb to any sort of issues? How can we keep our body fueled with proper proteins and fats so that we can build those necessary cells and muscles and tissues that our body needs to thrive? So that's what we're going to talk about this evening. And without further ado, let's jump right into the cooking. Before y'all tuned in, I got started on some curry rice. Right here you can see it. And curry is actually really important as far as some of the ingredients in curry being very anti-inflammatory, helping your body with decreasing the amount of stress that it undergoes every single day. It's got turmeric, it's got curcumin, it's got ginger, all these spices and things that you hear of as being anti-inflammatory, that's in this rice. Add to that, we've got some good coconut milk, we've got some healthy grass-fed butter for some proteins and fats. All of that is, again, going to fuel your body, okay? But our main course this evening is going to be a lemon garlic chicken. Now, again, lemon, vitamin C, we've all heard the importance of vitamin C, whether it's now or during cold and flu season. Vitamin C is really one of those things that helps to upregulate that immune system. Add to that the garlic, which is antifungal, antiviral, antibacterial, anything anti that we don't want in our bodies, garlic can take care of. So we're definitely going to be a little heavy-handed, at least I am, on the garlic tonight. Take that as you will. I know some people don't really like garlic, but definitely encourage them to give it a try. So before y'all tune in, I did get my chicken all set up. I'm using skin-on chicken thighs. Now, these did have bones in them before I started, but I deboned them, and I didn't just toss the bones. I actually put those into a Ziploc bag. I froze them so that later on I can create some homemade bone broth, and we can always give that recipe a little later if anybody would like to see that one. But with these thighs, what I'm going to do is I've already salted, peppered, and thrown a little garlic powder on them. I've got my Instant Pot here. Now, this is an Instant Pot recipe, but you can use a slow cooker. This is a Pampered Chef model, but whatever pressure cooker you have is going to work really well. So I'm going to turn this Instant Pot to the saute function, and I'm going to let that heat up, and I am going to put a little bit of oil in the pan. Now, I like to use avocado oil. It has a higher burn point, so it's not going to cause as much oxidation, and it's not going to smoke as easily as olive oil. So I'm going to add just a little bit of that to our pan. The great thing about this recipe is that it's a one-pot dish. I'm going to saute this meat. I'm going to take it out, put all of my aromatics, my garlic, my onion into the pot, let that saute for a little bit, and then I'm going to throw the chicken right back in, a little bit of liquid, and it's going to go for about 15 minutes or so. So as this is heating up, I've also got in my oven some Brussels sprouts. Brussels sprouts are leafy greens. We're trying to eat the rainbow, right? Brussels sprouts are very important for some of these micronutrients that we don't get a lot in our diet. Make sure that your Brussels sprouts and any vegetable are in season, right? And they happen to be in season right now. Another great option is asparagus for this time of year. Again, really good as far as antioxidant protection for your body. With these Brussels sprouts, I parboiled them to get that cooking process started so they don't take so long in the oven. I then put them into a little bath of some apple cider vinegar and some honey. Again, really good for that immune system. That's kind of the trend here. So be paying attention to all these little ingredients that you probably have in your pantry, you just don't really use very often. So a little bit of honey, a little bit of apple cider vinegar, salt and pepper, and I threw those into the oven for about 50 minutes, again, depending on how tender you like your Brussels sprouts or whatever veggie you're cooking. My oven is at 375. So those are going right now, okay? And we'll pull those out once they're done, and you'll get to see the finished product. My pan is just about warm, so I'm gonna take my chicken thighs, and I'm gonna put them skin down first, okay? Now, when you're doing this, make sure that you don't crowd the pan, and you can hear maybe that nice sizzle that we got going on there. Make sure you don't crowd the pan because we don't want to steam our chicken. We just want that nice crispy skin. A lot of times, back in the 90s, I know my mom was one who was really worried about all the fat that's in chicken skin, so we had this time where it was all about chicken breasts. Well, a lot of people are now realizing that the skin on chicken is one of the best parts for you because it has all those good fats that our body craves. So I can get about 4 chicken thighs into my Instant Pot here. And I'm just gonna let those go for a couple minutes on each side. Again, all we're trying to do is get some nice color on that chicken. While those are going, I'm just gonna stir my rice here. Now when I started this rice, it had a lot of liquid in it. First thing I did was just to take my onion, I diced it up, and I put that into the pan with a little bit of butter. I sauteed that for about 1.5, 2 minutes. It doesn't take very long. A nice medium heat, that onion just melts, right? And you start to smell it, and that's about when you know it's done, okay? So I had my onion, that was all finished. Then what I did was I added a cup of rice, and this is jasmine rice that I'm using tonight. Brown rice works, it might take a little longer to cook, but still perfectly fine. I put a little bit of 1 cup of jasmine rice in there and 2 tablespoons of curry powder. I happen to use a sweet curry, but if you want to do something more spicy, perfectly fine. I then let that cook for just a couple of minutes, let all that curry mix into that rice, get that onion in there, and then I added all my other ingredients, which were golden raisins, a little bit of salt, a bay leaf, vegetable stock. I actually used chicken stock tonight, and light coconut oil, coconut milk, which you can actually make at home. You can buy the full fat stuff. Just split it half and half, coconut milk to water, works perfectly. So that's all been in this pan for about the last 15-20 minutes. I brought it to a boil first, and then I dropped it to a simmer, just letting it chill out, letting it soak up all those good flavors. And there's no liquid left in this pan, so I actually turned that off, and this is ready to go. We're gonna flip our chicken. Been about 2 minutes here. Getting some nice color. We want a golden brown on that skin. It might stick to the pan a little bit, and that is perfectly fine. Oh yeah, this is smelling delicious over here. So earlier today I got all of my ingredients prepped. Now when you're doing things at home, prep is really the most important part, because if I was to try and do all the prep and all the cooking at the same time, it would take me a lot longer, and I'd probably have something burned. So all of my ingredients were prepped a little earlier today, and I always like to make extra. I can eat a lot, so when I'm cooking, I only have 4 chicken thighs in here right now, but typically I'd make probably around 8 to 10. So again, don't worry about things going bad. You can store this in the freezer. You can store it in the fridge for leftover lunch tomorrow, right? Don't feel like you have to just make one meal at a time, because that meal prep is really going to save you as we go through that process. So right now, with all of this coronavirus stuff that's going on, immune health and function is so important, right? We're being told to stay inside, to stay away from people, to wear a mask. What about you? What are you doing for yourself that's keeping you healthy? For me, I'm eating like this, right? I'm still exercising. I'm getting outside with my family and enjoying the sunshine, getting that vitamin D3, all to help boost the immune system, right? Now, the challenge is that all these things we're being told to do are actually decreasing our body's ability to cope with any sort of infection that we're dealing with. So be careful with what you're doing to your body during these times. Sure, it might be a time to relax. There might be some extra time at home, but don't fall out of those good routines that you've already built over the course of this last year or 6 months or 3 months if this was a New Year's resolution for you. Keep on it. And if you need support, we're here, right? All of my staff at Elevate, we are here to support you and make sure that you are keeping on that pathway of living a healthy and well lifestyle. So my chicken is just about brown. It's looking pretty good here. I'll pull it out of the saute. Now again, we're not trying to cook the chicken all the way through. We're just trying to get some good color on it. And if you have some sticky bits on the bottom of the pan, perfectly fine. You're going to love that later. So here's my chicken. Still a little raw, like I said, but you can see we've got that nice color on the skin, and that's really what we're going for. Now, our next step is going to be to take our butter that we've prepared. We're going to add that to our saute pan. Again, just get a little more cooking oil in there so none of this sticks. We're going to let that melt. And then we're going to add our onions and our garlic. Now I've used red onions because that would happen to be what I have. Typically I wouldn't do it this way. I would separate the onions and the garlic so you can cook the onions first and then add the garlic at the last minute in this step because we don't want it to burn. So we've got all our onions and our garlic in there. We're going to stir this up. And we just need a couple of minutes here just to start smelling that garlic and onion, okay? And I'm already smelling it. It smells delicious here. I wish you guys were in the kitchen with me. Once we've got some good color on this onion and garlic, we are going to add a little bit of chicken broth, some lemon juice, some lemon zest, and some Italian seasoning. We're going to let that all marry together, and then we're going to add our chicken back in, and we're not going to touch this for another 15 minutes. All right, so we're going to get some good, let's do the lemon first, actually. So we're going to zest this just a little bit. As much zest as you want. The goal here is that we're getting a nice citrus flavor and smell to this recipe. We're going to take half our lemon and juice it. And you can hear that sizzle. We're starting to deglaze the pan. I'm going to stir just a little more. Scrape again all those crispy bits that we made a little earlier. We're going to scrape those off the bottom. Then we're going to add, again, that chicken stock. A little bit of Italian seasoning. We're going to stir that up, and then we'll add our chicken right back in. Skin up, skin down, doesn't really matter. We just wanted to get it in the pan. We're going to stop our sear setting. We're going to put the lid on, make sure it's sealed, and we're going to start the pressure cooker setting. And we're going to go for 7 minutes. So this is a pretty quick cook. Let's see. Where is Kristen? Here we go. Now make sure that your pressure nozzle is closed. I've had these things go, and I think everything is fine and dandy, and I realized that I didn't start the pressure cooking. So make sure that that thing is sealed, otherwise you're going to be waiting a long time for dinner. So my other half of the lemon I'm going to be using for a garnish. I'm just going to cut that into some wheels and use that on top of the chicken once we're done. I'm going to check in on these Brussels sprouts here. Starting to look a little crispy, perfect. Our rice is done, it's just hanging out. It's off the heat. Now, I've been talking. Do we have any questions? I haven't seen any of the comments, so let me look in here. We'll go back to the beginning. I saw one comment here. This is a Whole30 compliant dish as long as you don't use the honey on the Brussels sprouts, but everything else is perfectly Whole30. So again, if you're on a Whole30 right now, which I know some of us are, this is a great option for you to use. Let's see. Hey, Emily, how are ya? Hey, Mike and Stacy. Jared, how are ya? Let's see. Brussels sprouts. Yes, Brian. Brussels sprouts are not as bad as your parents used to make them. I promise you. They can be delicious. Again, that parboil is really the key. You're not cooking them to death. You're going to saute them. You're going to you're going to roast them, something to get them a little texture, because The smell of Brussels sprouts that have just been boiled and maybe a little butter if you're lucky, not very, very tasty. So when you're doing Brussels sprouts, there are lots of options that you can do to add some flavor, just like you can asparagus. I know there are a lot of people who don't like asparagus, so that's a great way to not necessarily hide the flavor, but still get you some of those great nutrients that you're getting from the asparagus and from the Brussels sprouts. Let's see. Does anybody else have any questions? Rice, thank you, Terry. Rice is not Whole30. Unless you're looking at the newer model or the newer guidelines, they did add white rice to the Whole30 guidelines. However, don't feel like you have to use rice. There is cauliflower rice you could use. You could do white potato or sweet potato. Those are all Whole30 approved. There are substitutes that you can make here that will still taste just as good. It might not absorb all that liquid like my rice has, but it's still going to be good options for you. Emily, no, I did not rinse the rice. You could. That would take some of that starchiness out, would make it a little more of a, not as thick of a rice when you're cooking it or when it's finished. So it would be a little more piecemeal as opposed to kind of clumps of rice when you're done. Let's see. As far as some of our other cooking ingredients, again, anything local, right? If you can't find local fresh produce, and right now our farmers markets are on a standstill, which is unfortunate, but your next best option is anything that is flash frozen. I would rather you go flash frozen than anything that is out of season in the supermarket, okay? Because we need those proper nutrients. And when things are flash frozen, they are ripened to their appropriate state and then they get packaged. As opposed to things that are in the supermarket, they've been shipped from whomever knows where. Those sorts of ingredients tend to be picked a little early as far as their ripening goes, and that makes them less nutrient dense. So when in doubt, go with fresh at a farmer's market. If that's not an option, go with something flash frozen, because again, that's going to be a more wholesome ingredient for you. Some of the spices that I like to use include things like curry. I'm a big fan of spice, so I like to use a lot of cumin, of paprika, of red chili flake, and chipotle pepper. So I like to add a little spice, maybe a little more of a Mexican flair. Now, if you're doing something that's Whole30, absolutely you could have this be a Whole30 compliant dish that is maybe Taco Tuesday, right? It was just Cinco de Mayo the other day. Maybe you were on that Whole30 and you didn't get to enjoy a taco. Lettuce wraps are perfect. I've got some butter lettuce in the fridge right now. That would be a great option to give you that taco feel without pushing you out of a Whole30 or making you eat something that maybe doesn't sit well with you. Anybody else have any questions right now? As you can see, this guy came up to temp pretty quick since it was already working. There was already some steam built up, so we've only got 4 minutes left on that. I'll go ahead and take these Brussels sprouts out if we don't have any other questions, because these guys are looking just about perfect. Well, it looks like I might have given them a little too long, but that was the honey that I added on that made these a little overdone. But there's still a few good ones here. Now, when we're talking Brussels sprouts, again, these crispy bits, really the best part. I had these in there about 45 minutes at 375. So I would have taken them out a little bit sooner, probably around 25-30 minutes to make sure that the Brussels sprouts were not overdone. Again, if you're using something like honey or balsamic vinegar would be another great option just to add some good flavor to these. Make sure you watch them really well. I was talking, so I missed out on getting them out of the oven quick enough. But make sure that you watch them, because those sugars, those naturally occurring sugars, will burn if you let it go too long. Looks like we got a couple other questions coming in here. Yes, this recipe, as far as the chicken goes, can be done without an Instant Pot. You can do this in a slow cooker. Same first steps. You're going to saute the chicken, get that nice color on the skin. You're going to saute the onions and the garlic. Then you're going to put that into your slow cooker and let it go on low for about 3 or 4 hours. Comes out just as well. And sometimes I actually think the slow cooker is better than the Instant Pot, at least with a couple recipes I've tried. Haven't done this one yet, but typically the flavors have more time to develop, especially when we use things like lemon, garlic, curry. Those flavors really start to develop a lot better when we give it more time to cook. So if you have the chance to start this in the morning, or you have a late lunch, where a lot of us are working from home right now, you can start this on your lunch break. It'll be ready by dinner time. Stacy, yes, you can use different cuts of meat. I like the chicken thighs because I like the dark meat. However, chicken breasts, perfectly fine. You can definitely use wings or drums. Whatever taste your family likes, by all means, go for it. Give it a shot. Let us know how it works, right? Come back to this page, come back to this video, write a comment, because we'll still see those. If you try something, it's like, yeah, this worked really well. Heck, even try to use a different protein, right? Chicken and lemon tend to go together, but this will work really well with a more meaty fish like a halibut. You could do that pretty easily. Maybe not in the Instant Pot, but something like a one-pan meal. Let's see. Yeah, I agree. They are good, crispy. I've got a few good ones here, a few that may be a little over for some people. So our Instant Pot just beeped. With that, we're going to let that go for 2 to 3 minutes on its natural depressurization. That's just going to help allow that cooking process to continue a little bit. Then we're going to hit the button, make a manual release. You're going to hear all the steam that we all love when the Instant Pot goes off. And we're going to get those chicken thighs out of the Instant Pot and onto a plate. So let me grab a plate real quick. Feel free to keep asking questions as I'm working here. I can kind of see the phone. Yeah, drumsticks would be good for this, Cass. Make some nice lemon slices here. For those who are just tuning in, welcome. Thanks for joining us tonight, talking about how food can be as good, if not better, than some of the other things that we're told to take in our daily lives. So I got a couple minutes still here. I'm gonna plate up this rice. And again, look at that. You can see those raisins plumped up nicely. We've got some good garlic. Look at that color. That is all that curry, all that turmeric, the curcumin that we're looking for. That's what gives it that nice yellow color. Now, we're not necessarily a 5-star restaurant here, but we still care about our plating, right? We want our food to look appealing, because not only do we eat with our mouth, we eat with our eyes, right? When you go to a restaurant, you see that plate that gets set down in front of you, it looks good, right? And you want to eat it. So make sure that when you're plating food, it does matter, right? Make sure that what you're plating is something that you would really want to eat. And with that being said, I'm going to take a few of these less done Brussels sprouts here. Another thing to consider when we're plating is take a look at your plate size. Now, this plate is actually still a little big for what I'd recommend. The tendency, and this is our brain talking, is that we want to fill this plate. And if we don't fill the plate, that means that we're not full, right? So when you're choosing plates and glassware for your kitchen, choose something that is going to give you the protein and the foods that you need, but make sure that it's appropriate based on the food that you're eating, right? We've got 2 minutes here on our pressure cooker. I'm going to give that just another second to release, or to let the heat continue on, and then we will release that like that. Already 3 minutes. So we're going to release the pressure. You hear the steam that everybody loves? Let the steam go, because I've definitely taken the lid off too early and I had beef stew explode everywhere. So make sure you give this time to depressurize. You'll hear the little button depress. Open that lid up. And then I'm gonna grab a piece of chicken. Gonna add a slice of lemon, and voila. There's dinner tonight, folks, or tomorrow, or the next day, right? So again, all this food, super easy to make. All told, I think my prep time took me about 30 minutes. The cook time took about 30 minutes. It's 7:30 right now. So cooking at home does not need to be hard, right? For those of you who saw my Instagram story last week, this guy waited in line at 11 Wendy's for chicken nuggets that were free. Why would you do that? He probably spent 2 hours waiting in those lines when he could have made that dish right there in an hour, tops, right? So don't let ease keep you from eating well, right? Again, moral of the story here is that we need to fuel our bodies the way that nature intended. And that is good protein, healthy fats, a little bit of starch, and maybe a little fruit for dessert. I got a banana here that looks like it needs to be eaten, so that'll probably be what I have. How does this all relate to chiropractic? Why am I talking about food, right? Chiropractic is all about the body as a whole. When I look at a patient, when I look at you, I'm looking at how your body is functioning immunologically, neurologically, muscularly. We're looking at everything. And if one of those pieces is not working the way that it should, things aren't going to work. There are going to be problems and challenges that develop because our body is working overtime in some other place. So if we're taking care of our gut, 90% of our immune system is in our gut. If we're taking care of that, we're going to take care of everything else. When we talk about chiropractic, we're talking about the nervous system. The nervous system controls everything. Of course, it controls the gut. So if we are taking care of our bodies, if we're taking care of our spine, of our brain, of our muscles, we're going to function better. And especially during times like this where we don't know what the next step is going to be, when we're going to be able to go to the beaches and walk in the sand, when we're going to be able to go have a glass of wine with friends, right? That's not in and of itself bad, but these are things that we are told that we can't do right now. So this is the best way that you can keep your body functioning as it's supposed to, rather than letting things slide by the wayside and having these chronic issues creep up out of seemingly nowhere. I think that's all that I have. I'm ready to dig in. Before we do that, though, are there any last-minute questions about anything we talked about, any of the recipes, anything at all? I will be sending an email to all those who joined us tonight. So if you want to type your email address into the comments or direct message me privately, I can send you the link to these, the spreadsheet of these recipes so you can try these at home, make your own little twists. One thing, I again see some cherry tomatoes sitting here, talking about eating the rainbow. I might add some of those to my chicken. I might add some next time I do this to the pressure cooker towards the end of cooking so that we get that nice juicy tomato. Again, eating the rainbow, getting some of those nutrients that we need rather than relying on a supplement or a pill, okay? So please write your emails down. We'll get you these recipes so that you can try these at home. And let us know in the comments when you finish these recipes, how they tasted for you. What was your challenge? What did you like? What did you not like? What would you do differently next time, right? We want to hear that. We want to see how you are helping your own body in your own kitchen that can work for your family. Make sure I got all my talking points here. And it looks like I'm all set. Again, are there any last minute questions that I can answer for anybody? Hey Lynn, thanks for joining us. Didn't see you earlier. Matt, thanks for joining in. Hopefully you get a chance to catch the replay. I think you caught us at the end here. Thanks, Terry. It smells pretty good. I'm ready to dig in myself. All right. Well, if anybody has any last minute questions, again, feel free to send me a direct message, shoot me a text, or give the office a call. I'd be more than happy to answer those for you. So thank you everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next time for Cooking with Dr. J.